In this episode, Kevin Stott.
You can work hard, but there still will be people that don't think you're good enough. Having to start work in a completely different job in a completely different country was pretty surreal for me to start with, and then all of a sudden it's just no one, and like that's scary.
He's a bit like racing's Roy Keane, I think.
Well, he even looks like Roy Keane, to be honest. I'm going racing knowing that I need to provide for my child now. I wanted people to feel sorry for me, and nobody did. I want to show people a different side of me than what people have seen of me the last couple of years.
Kevin, welcome to Jockeys The Podcast. It's really good to get you on. I want to start with outside of racing. We can come back to talk about plenty of stuff in racing later on, but in terms of days off and time away from the saddle and hobbies and interest in that kind of thing, what are you doing outside of racing? What interests you and what engages you?
First of all, Adam, pleasure to be on. It'd be good just to have a catch up, that's for sure. Listen, outside of racing, I play a lot of golf. I try and get with the lads quite a bit and play as much golf as I can. And other than that, spend loads of time with the family, really. Yeah.
And tell me, so if there's a couple of you going to play golf and there's money on the line, who's walking away with the money most often?
It kind of depends, because like Dave Nolan is very good. Dave Allen is very good. Like they play of 5 and 6, I think, 4 or 6. So yeah, it's always great, great playing with them, because they are, so good. And when you're a bit of a higher handicapper, like I'm off 10 at the minute. When you're playing with someone that's better than you, you're always wanting to be better than them. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same as when you're riding. You're always wanting to beat everyone. Do you know what I mean? So like, I obviously want to be as good as I can at it while still enjoying it. But like playing with them better players are obviously, it's just a lot more fun, because you're trying to get better as well as seeing very good shots from them. You know what I mean? So it's good fun. But yeah, Dave Allen kind of normally takes the money, but kind of depends if they have a bad round, because if they do have a bad round, I mean, then it's a little bit easier for us, but they are good.
And do you know, when you mentioned there about like it's that competitive nature similar to when you're racing, do you notice any differences in the jockeys when they're playing golf versus when they're riding? Like, do some of them get a bit more irritated at the golf when they might be calm in the weighing room, if that makes sense?
I mean, everyone's kind of the same person, to be honest. Like Jimmy Sullivan, just a general, like, A1 guy. He never gets angry, really. He never, he's always happy. And he's like that on the golf course. Dave Nolan, he's always very intense at the races. He's very focused on when he's riding. He always wants to win, like, every race. And it's like that when we play golf. Like, he wants to win every hole and win every time we play. And yes, don't get me wrong, he gets frustrated when it doesn't go his way. If that's at the races or playing golf. But listen, we're kind of all in the same boat. We all want to win. But no, like, everyone they don't really change. You are, like, I would like to think that I'm kind of the same in the weighing room as well as on the golf course,
I remember Dave Nolan when we did the Jockeys football after the Ebor Festival. I think it was 2 years ago now, and we went to penalties. And me and Dave were on the same team, and we'd missed 1 or 2, I think. And then me and Dave were both sat there going, "Why aren't they just hitting it hard and low? Keeping it simple."
Yeah.
And David already took one and scored, and he's like, "Right, you step up now and you hit this hard and low." And I was like, "Yeah, grand." And I stepped up and I put it straight down the middle of the keeper, and we lost. And he didn't talk to me for about 3 days.
No,
he was genuinely, he was fuming.
He is.
I
he is
think
like
he's
that,
a bit
but
like, he's a bit like racing's Roy Keane, I think.
Well, he even looks like Roy Keane, to be honest.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. He's very intense, but he just wants to win. That's literally it. He wants to win every time, and he gets really frustrated if he doesn't. And that could be Monday night five-a-side football, like you say. You know, we do that now and again, and it's like, lads, come on, we need to win. Like, we have to win. So, but he still keeps it. He still keeps it fun. Don't get me wrong. But there's definitely worse to be had if we don't win. That's for sure.
Yeah. And talk to me about football as well, because that's something I do know a little bit more about than golf. And it's fairly well documented that you had trials for Spurs when you were younger, before you became a jockey. Just tell me a little bit about that trial process.
The team I was playing for at the time, we were top 3 in Denmark, under 15s, and we were playing a tournament in Holland, and we actually played Chelsea's academy under 15s in the semi-final, and they were unbelievable, like crazy unbelievable. But like they were like 14, 15-year-old lads that looked like grown men. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were coming out with beards and like just massive guys. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm running around there tiny, but like we got absolutely like hammered. I think we lost about like 7 or 8-0 or something. But I actually had a good game considering we lost. And I obviously don't know, but I was lucky enough at the time. I got approached by this fella after the game. Actually, my mum got approached by this fella after the game and said that he was a scout from Tottenham, and he was pretty impressed by me, blah blah blah, and like, here's my cards. I'll get in contact with you within the next 2 weeks and stuff. And then I remember it was being a bit weird because like my mum was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy," like blah blah blah, and I just remember saying to my mum, I was like, "Mum, this like, yeah, but I don't know if I believe it." You know what I mean? Like, you just you have this like dream in your head thinking of like having trials with you, like, but I was like, that's not going to happen. He won't ring. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were just kind of, obviously I was excited at the time, but like I was like, yeah, that's not happening. And then literally a week and a half later, this fella rings my mum and says, "Yeah, listen, we'd love to have him over for a 2-week trial. We'll fly him over, pick you up in the airport. You'll stay near the training ground. And we'll come pick you up every morning to go to training, etc." And yeah, it was and that's what happened. I was finishing school, not kind of knowing what I wanted to do. I knew school wasn't something that I wanted to proceed as in go to university and them kind of things. Like, I wasn't really book smart enough to do any of that. So that's when the horses came into the scene, really.
Well, tell me about, I want to know more specifics about the trial, because when you arrive into training in the training ground, first of all, at that age, I'd assume you're incredibly, incredibly nervous, and it's really daunting. Did it feel like that? And then in the actual training itself, was there ever a point where you felt like either I'm completely out of my depth, or alternatively, did you feel like actually...
It was obviously quite surreal when you came in, like the training ground and that, because like you had like, it is the training ground where like all the age groups train. Do you know what I mean? So like you have from the Premier League and down to like under 10s are all kind of in the same kind of area. And I remember the dressing rooms, like we walked into dressing rooms, and coming from Denmark, dressing rooms in Denmark would be something you see it in the schools and stuff, like school dressing rooms, and they were all the same in Denmark. So, and that was just kind of a whole new level for me then. Do you know what I mean? Because like I remember we used to just turn up at home, and the manager would be screaming, "I'll put the cones up, we're doing this drill," or whatever. You know what I mean? Where this was very different. It was different. Very good though. Like, great experience. Pretty cool.
Tell me about then when you get the phone call or whatever it was to say, sorry, but you've not made it. And it's a really difficult thing to take at that age. Did you feel heartbroken? Was it a hard thing to take on board?
Yeah, of course, because you have this dream. Do you know what I mean? Like you have all this like kind of hope going there, hoping that like, you know, this might just be it, you know, like this is going to be all I've ever wanted. Do you know what I mean? And I remember the second last day we were there, the scout rang us up and took us out for lunch, me and my mum, and basically sat us down and was like, listen, I've had a word. They're not going to go forward, you know. And we were like, right, okay. Like, obviously I was upset straight away. You know, I was like, oh, you know, obviously not good enough, them kind of things. But that's not what, so the scout was telling me, like, listen, it's just because of the manager that's doing the under 15s at the minute, are just wanting bigger lads, stronger lads, you know, quicker lads, stuff like that, where I was obviously a lot smaller than a lot of the other players, and I was just very good with the ball. But that's not what that manager at the time wanted. He said, listen, had it been a year before or maybe a year later, it might have been very different. But it was just at the time, that's just what they wanted. So it was just one of them things. I was very upset, obviously. But he kept telling me, you know, like, don't give up, go home, you know, keep at it, blah, blah, blah. And I did, but then I kind of had to leave school, and like I had to either go working somewhere in a job that I didn't want, or try something different, which was riding horses. So, yeah.
And then did that, obviously that experience, which again at that age is pretty harrowing and difficult to process, but do you think that served you along the line somewhere, like going through that and having to deal with that sort of rejection and the difficulty that comes with it? Do you think that stood you in good stead, like through the early part of your career, maybe as a jockey?
Yeah, I think so. It definitely made me wanted to prove myself a little bit more, maybe. Not just by, you know, thinking that if you work hard, then everyone's gonna want you. Do you know what I mean? Like you can work hard, but there still will be people that don't think you're good enough. You know what I mean? But as a young jockey, you know, I was always determined to work incredibly hard, and I still am, obviously. But I always just had it in my back of my head that like I've you know, I've been rejected by what I really really wanted to do as a kid, and now I'm having to look at a different path, and you know, working hard it's one of the main things, as you well know as well, Adam, like growing up when you're a kid in racing, it's, you don't work hard, you don't get opportunities. That's just the way it is. So yeah, it definitely helped me out early doors, that's for sure.
When you're that sort of young jockey or young sports person, you can kind of be drawn into tunnel vision on your sport and your career. Was family something that was always important to you, or is it similar to me that as you got older, did you realize the importance of it?
I think now it's definitely the older I've got, without a doubt. Moving to England as a 16-year-old, without your parents, having to start work in a completely different job in a completely different country, was pretty surreal for me to start with. You know, like I was obviously excited. Don't get me wrong. Like I was looking forward to coming over and, you know, starting to ride, etc., and see what would happen. But I mean, you don't know how you're gonna get on straight away in a different country without your family. And then, yeah, I was on the phone a lot. Don't get me wrong. But from then you're kind of 19 to your late 20s, you know, you just kind of have that tunnel vision of wanting to do really well and kind of not thinking of the family picture as much. You know, like you enjoy your nights out maybe a little bit more when you're younger. And yeah, you know, it's you'd go racing, you'd drive 4 hours for one ride, where now I might look at it in a kind of different perspective because of family, like obviously have my own family now, so that is definitely a little bit different.
Yeah, that's another thing that's come up on previous podcasts. We speak to Harry Burns and Eddie Graychicks, who both just relatively recently had kids. Is that perspective switch that they both said that happened basically the instant that their child is born, that you sort of become much less selfish and tunnel vision, and it flips onto I'm responsible for another human being now. So there's obviously much more important things going on. Was that the same for you as soon as your little one's born, that like I'm different now?
I would like to think so. I think I am, but that is just because for me on a personal level, Adam, I think like when we were talking about that tunnel vision of like when you're young, you just want to do well in your career and stuff, like you kind of, and I'm just talking about me here, as in I was kind of going racing, riding, coming home, and yeah, you drive nice cars, and you live in a nice house, have nice stuff, but it just doesn't feel like you're doing it for a reason. Do you know what I mean? Like it always has felt to me up until 6 weeks ago, that like I was kind of just doing this for no one but myself, because I don't have family around here. Like I say, my family all live in a different country. So yeah, driving nice cars and having nice stuff is always like, it kind of comes into perspective where you think about it, as in like I didn't actually need any of that now. Do you know what I mean? Like now I'm thinking completely different thoughts. I'm going racing knowing that I need to provide for my child now. I want him to grow up and have all the things that I never had, or like, and it just, yeah, you think differently 100%. Of course you do. And like, it just puts a lot more perspective into going to work, coming home, doing what you're doing to provide for someone else it's just great for me personally.
Lack of sleep, right? And obviously that's got to be the killer for most people. So like that tied in with sort of making weight, long hours in the car, riding out. Is it really difficult as a jockey to manage that and find that balance? Are you still trying to work that out like in the early days?
Yeah, of course. Definitely trying to still work it out. I'm incredibly lucky that Neve, my partner, she does all the night stuff, so I don't actually have to do any feeding through the night. But obviously I still sleep in the same room and stuff, and everything. So like I obviously hear when he cries and stuff, and I am obviously awake. But yeah, of course it's tiring, but it's not a tiring where you kind of go, oh my God, like what now? Do you know what I mean? Like you're tired. Yes, you're tired, but like you're tired because you're doing something really good. Yeah. It's not oh my God, I have to do this now. Like I'm so tired, but I have to do it. And it's just a ball ache, but it's not, you know what I mean? Like it's the biggest, most incredible joy ever. And yeah, there's no feeling like it. And I don't mind being tired for an extra couple of hours a day, trust me.
That's very wholesome. I like, again, same as what I've had these conversations before. They almost convinced me that I need to have one, so I might need to get that in the work sooner than later. But we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm quite ready.
That would be good. That'd be good. That would be good. You should.
Yeah, I am pushing on now. Like in fairness, wow.
Yeah, well, we're kind of same age, aren't we? Nearly.
Well, no, you're significantly older than I am.
I wouldn't say significantly now, would I?
I'd say that. Did you feel like through that early period and through all the success and everything that went with it, did you feel a little bit lonely? Because I find there's a tendency with sports people and athletes generally when you're tunnel vision and you're focused and stuff, there, no matter how many people are around you, and you can be speaking to people on a daily basis, there's a kind of a loneliness that walks hand in hand with that.
Yeah, good question, Adam. Good question. I wouldn't say lonely. I would say my most loneliest years riding would have been the last 2 years. I would have said before that I wouldn't actually have. I didn't know. I never felt lonely, because I think because from when I first started riding, I was just, I was associated with Kevin Ryan. I was just in one yard. I was working incredibly hard, and Kevin was incredibly good to me. And then I had a year and year and a half when I went to Newmarket to try something a little bit different. Like I was a young kid that came over from Denmark, didn't know what to expect. And then I remember I just lost my £5 claim, and rides were kind of just trying out a little bit, and I wanted a new adventure, and I tried Newmarket, and I was probably a little bit lonely down there just because I didn't really know anyone, and I went straight into work for Luca Kamani, who I had never actually ridden for. But I was still excited. So I think the excitement by going down there kind of went over the fact that I was probably a little bit lonely. And it didn't turn out. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it. I was actually very, very close to moving back home to Denmark. And if it wasn't for Luca that kind of said, let's move back up north and have another go, then I would have gone home, and like I wouldn't be sitting here, that's for sure. But yeah, loneliness, it was kind of probably, I'd say, within the last 2 years of my life, to be honest.
What you might class as the rebuild now going forward.
Yeah.
How do you, like, psychologically, how do you put that behind you and start trying to rebuild something, to go from kind of riding relatively consistently at Group 1 level and high numbers of winners, good prize money and everything that went with it, to almost kind of feeling like you're starting again, I expect, and try and build it back forwards? How do you work through that?
That's a good question, Adam. Yeah. And it kind of is basically starting from scratch again. And that's the whole thing with this game that we're in. It tamed lions. Is that what we say normally? But no, you can go from being up here to down here very, very quickly, and there's no one to kind of catch you when you're out down here. When you're up here, it's all great because everyone wants to speak to you. Like you're kind of wanted by everyone, and then all of a sudden it's just no one, and like that's scary. That is scary. But no, listen, it happens to a lot. It happens to a lot of jockeys, But that was a bit hard for me because I was down in Lambourne, where I hadn't been for very long. I was having to find a new agent, and that wasn't easy. And I was having to try and get into yards and trainers that I hadn't ridden for before. And they all had their own jockeys. So like I was just hoping something would happen. And I'm very grateful for the trainers and owners that supported me while I was down there, and the trainers and owners who support me up north while I was down there, because obviously I was still riding up north a little bit. But no, it was hard. But because like you say, you go from riding in very good races and riding very good horses to then all just instantly, you're kind of not wanted by anyone. And it only takes in this game for a jockey not to ride a winner in 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're never heard of for a while, and that's the scary bit, because there's no one there to there's no one there to tell you what to do to make everything right again.
When it flips and that switch goes and you feel like nobody wants you and your agent is struggling to get rides, is there a part of your brain that starts to doubt? Because I know for me, when obviously I wasn't on the same scale as you again, but when I got to a point of feels like nobody wants me and I'm struggling to get rides here, doubt crept in massively. And I did genuinely think I'm just not good enough at all, or maybe I never was. So was that same for you, or did you manage to kind of fight that doubt and get through it?
There's definitely doubt. There still is, Adam. There still is doubt, and I think that goes through a lot of jockeys that do well, and then all of a sudden have a quiet spell. Because there's always younger jockeys coming through. You know, they're getting the opportunities that you're not. So then, yeah, you question your ability. Of course you do. You go in and I tell you what I did personally, Adam. I went into defense mode. I went into like where I want people to feel sorry for me. And I don't know why I did that, but that was just my kind of reaction to all of it. And that was the wrong thing to do. And I was angry. You know, I was upset. I wanted people to feel sorry for me, and nobody did. Not for a grown man, you know. And I didn't know how to deal with that. But then I removed myself from the situation and I went to New Zealand for 5 months, and I think that was the best thing I did at the time, because that it kind of just got me away a little bit, and it got me back wanting to go racing. It got me back wanting to ride winners, because I did well out there, and I rode some nice winners, and you know, I was riding majority of every day. I was putting a lot of work in out there, and it had paid off. And had we not had a baby 6 weeks ago, well, who knows? I might have gone back out this winter. But me moving back up north and wanting to settle down in England and wanting to be a jockey in England and do my absolute best again in England, we decided to move up north and give it another go up here and settle down back up here where I started, and where I feel a bit more home up here, because this is where I started. You know, it's where I moved to as soon as I came over. So it was a bit difficult for me in Lambourne, because I didn't really know anyone. I was very lonely, very lonely.
And it sounds like you've done an awful lot of self-reflection, and it seems like you've got some very good insights on that time period and your own behavior and everything went through that. How important is that for you going forward? Like, do you feel like you are a very kind of reflective person, and therefore as a result of that it helps you grow as a person, if that makes sense? Yes,
I think so, Adam. I think it'll definitely make me a better person. And well, I know it already has. And I would like to, I want to show people a different side of me than what people have seen of me the last couple of years. Because like I say, I was angry, and like I wasn't a very pleasant person to be around, and a lot of people kind of, I think, has got this wrong perception of me a little bit. And that, like you say, maybe comes from doubt a little bit, as well as you know, like I've always been a very outgoing person, very happy person, very, you know, hardworking, wanting to kind of please everyone by myself. And then the last couple of years just kind of turned, and I turned sour and angry and upset, and kind of just reflected me in a different light than I wanted to. And I don't want people to think that I'm this arrogant, cocky, don't like people, don't want to work, want everything given to me, all this, because there's no way that has ever been anything like me since the first day I came over here. I know my ability has got me to where I am, not the way I speak, because I am from a different country. I am from I do know English, don't get me wrong, but sometimes the right words are very difficult to say when you don't know them, where I've always relied on my ability to ride. And at this stage, I'm still trying to rebuild that by the ability. You just need the opportunities a little bit.
People will want to know, obviously you're from Denmark, moved to the UK. There's a definite Irish twinge in the accent. And when I first met you, I thought you were Irish. It was very Irish.
No, I listen, I get that a lot. I do get that a lot, don't get me wrong. And I'll tell you exactly why now. For the first 4 years of me working for Kevin Ryan, living in stable accommodation, I lived with 4 Irish lads. And had I lived with 4 lads from North Yorkshire, I'm pretty sure I would have come out speaking like I was from North Yorkshire, not with an Irish twang. I didn't have an accent when I first came to England. I knew English, but everything was Danish at home. I went to school in Denmark. Everything was Danish. My friends were Danish. Dad's English. Don't get me wrong. My dad is English, but he hasn't lived in England for over 60 years. So his English was just very, normal, kind of. Even though he's from Salford, but he doesn't sound like he's from Manchester at all.
With your love life, obviously it's pretty steady with a newborn, I'd imagine. How do you find it to manage now as you've gotten a bit older?
Obviously you kind of learn as you get older, of course you do. But I just think now it's I'm kind of at the stage in my love life anyways, where I kind of just want to come home to a house just full of nice energy, help out where I can, and vice versa. And I think obviously by having a kid has definitely changed a lot of how I see and feel stuff in a relationship, so that's for sure. But yeah, I literally couldn't ask for anything better, to be honest with you. I think I know me and Neve are very good we're very good as a team. We like helping each other and making sure that we're both in a good place. And I think by having our little boy, it definitely helped, everything going forward. So yeah, it's exciting times. It's a part of my life, stage of my life right now, where I'm really looking forward to the next 20 years, where I want to do a hell of a lot of things with my kid, where my dad couldn't do that with me. You know what I mean? So I'm just, I'm super excited as a family in general, to be able to go on family holidays, which I was never had the pleasure of. I never went on a family holiday with my family. So yeah, it's things like that. Looking forward to stuff like that. It's just, something that is that's exciting for me personally.
I think that's a really good place to end it on. Sounds like professionally and personally a lot to be excited about, and hopefully very positive moving forward.
Yeah, like I say, it's been a bit difficult, but that's in the past, and we're on the right way up, and I'm in a very good place, and I can't wait to show people that that I'm in a very good place, and that all stems from at home and work. I can't wait to just go racing and smile and be the nice, polite, happy, person that I always have been, because he hasn't been around for a little while.
That's good to hear. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Really good to have a catch up with you as well. And I look forward to seeing how you progress in future.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it, pal.